The snowstorm had blanketed the small, forgotten town in a deep and profound silence. Ice, like a layer of thick frosted glass, clung to the edges of the windows, and the wind, a wild and mournful sound, howled down the empty streets. Inside the dimly lit diner on the edge of town, a man stood behind the counter, methodically wiping down tables that hadn't seen a single customer in hours. His hands, chapped and cracked from years of hard, honest labor, moved with a steady, practiced rhythm. His apron, a faded, pale blue, bore the faint, ghostly stains of 1,000 meals, all of them served with a quiet and very deep love. Have you ever wondered if a single, small act of kindness really matters? Today's story is about a man who had lost almost everything but still chose to give what little he had to shivering, starving children who appeared at his door in the middle of a storm. He had no idea that this one simple choice would echo across 2 decades, returning to him in a way he could have never, ever imagined. If you believe that kindness can change a life, that second chances matter, and that even the smallest good deed can return 100-fold, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, Kindness Corner, and share this story with someone who needs a little hope today. The man's name was James Whitaker, and he had never planned on staying in this town. He had dreams once, big dreams, of becoming a celebrated chef in a bustling, vibrant city, owning his own cozy little restaurant where soft, gentle jazz music floated through the air like laughter. But life, as it so often does, had other, much harder plans for him. After his mother had passed away from a long, slow illness, and his younger, troubled sister had fallen into the dark, unforgiving grip of addiction, James had dropped everything. He had abandoned his dreams, packed a single bag, and come back home to care for his baby niece, a small, innocent life caught in the crossfire of a family tragedy, with the medical bills piling up and his own dreams slipping further and further away with each passing day. He had taken a job as a simple waiter and cook at this worn-down, forgotten roadside diner. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. And in a town where faces so often passed like fog, James's quiet, steady presence had become a kind of anchor. He was the man who remembered your name, who knew just how you liked your coffee, who would listen without a word of judgment to your troubles, and who served not just food, but a small and very precious measure of human dignity. It was during one particularly brutal winter, on a night when the storm had seemed to swallow the entire world, that he saw them. 2 children, a boy of around 11 and a girl who was barely 6, huddled together in the doorway of his diner, their faces pressed against the cold glass, like 2 small, pale ghosts of poverty. They stood there for a long time, as if trying to gather the courage to knock. James felt something sharp, something painful pierce through him. It wasn't pity, it was recognition. He had been them once. After his own father had vanished without a word, and hunger had become a regular, unwelcome visitor in their own small, cold home. Without a second thought, he walked to the door, opened it, and waved them in from the storm. He didn't ask for their names. He didn't press them with 1,000 useless, intrusive questions. He simply, and with a profound and very real kindness, said, "Come in, you're safe here." Led them to a small, warm booth in the corner, and then he went back to the kitchen and ladled out 2 large, steaming bowls of the thick, hearty vegetable soup he had made that morning. He set the bowls down in front of them, the hot, fragrant steam fogging up the cold windows of the diner. "Eat," he said again, his voice a gentle, comforting sound. The boy, cautious at first, broke a piece of the fresh, warm bread and handed half of it to his little sister. James watched them from a distance, a thick, painful lump forming in his throat, his own eyes beginning to moisten. Over the next hour, the 2 small, silent children devoured the food, their profound, desperate hunger speaking far louder than any words ever could. When they were finished, James packed up 2 extra-large sandwiches, slipped a folded $20 bill into the bottom of the bag, and told them, his own voice a little rough with an emotion he couldn't quite name, that they could come by his diner any time they were hungry. They never did. That night, he waited until long after his usual closing time. staring at the door every few minutes, a fresh pot of soup simmering on the stove just in case. But they didn't come back. Not the next morning, not the morning. After that, they were gone, swallowed back up by the same unforgiving world that had spit them out onto his doorstep. Still, the image of their small, pale, and incredibly brave faces remained with him, haunting, hopeful, and deeply unfinished. A story that he would carry in his own heart for years to come. Years passed. The world turned, seasons changed, and the small, forgotten town of Whitaker's Crossing continued its slow, quiet existence. James kept working. The diner, which had once been a struggling, run-down establishment on the verge of closing, slowly and almost miraculously began to change. Locals who had once driven to the next town for a decent meal started coming back. They came not just for the simple, honest, and delicious food that James cooked, but for the man himself. They came for the quiet, unassuming man who remembered their birthdays, who checked in on their sick relatives, who cooked free. Hot meals for families who couldn't afford to pay their heating bills in the winter. When the old owner finally decided to retire James, with a courage he didn't know he possessed, pulled every single penny he had saved, took out a risky, high-interest loan from the local bank, and he bought the place. He renamed it Whitaker's Haven. It was no longer just a restaurant. It became a shelter during the summer hurricanes. It became a warm, safe place for those who had no other homes to go to. And it became a community kitchen on the holidays. A place where no one, absolutely no one, had to spend Christmas alone. James still wore his faded blue apron. He still cooked every single dish with the same quiet, loving grace. But now, it was his kitchen. It was his vision. It was his haven. But James's life was not without its own deep and very private pain. His niece, the small, fragile baby he had taken in and raised like his own daughter, struggled. The ghosts of her own parents' troubled lives seemed to haunt her. She struggled through high school, a quiet, angry battle with a depression that James could not seem to heal. And then, after he had scrimped and saved to help her get a scholarship to the state college, she had left, cutting off all contact for years, leaving him with a silence in his own home that was even heavier and more lonely than before. He never stopped writing to her. Every single birthday, every single Christmas, he sent a long, heartfelt letter and a small, thoughtful gift to her last known address, praying with a father's desperate, unwavering hope that she was okay. The nights were often lonely. His body was weary from the long, hard hours at the diner, and his own heart was heavy with the quiet, unspoken regrets of a man who had sacrificed his own dreams for the sake of others, and yet he never, not for a single moment, lost his hope. Hope, he had learned a long time ago, was all he truly had. Then, one crisp, beautiful morning, 22 long years after that fateful, snowy night, as James was preparing his kitchen, before the dawn, a low, powerful hum echoed from the street outside. He peered through the frosted window of the diner, parked directly in front of his haven, a place of simple, honest work. Was a vehicle so out of place, so impossibly luxurious, that it looked like it had landed from another planet. A glistening black Rolls-Royce, its sleek, powerful lines, a silent, breathtaking testament to a world of unimaginable wealth. The driver's side door opened, and a sharply dressed young man with a confident, powerful posture and a pair of very familiar, intelligent eyes stepped out. Beside him, a beautiful woman in a crimson coat, with warm, golden-brown hair, stepped lightly onto the snow-covered pavement. James's heart, which had been beating a steady, familiar rhythm, seemed to pause. Could it be? Dumb stood frozen, the heavy stainless steel mixing bowl in his hands forgotten. The weight of a 22-year-old recognition crashed into him. The small, scared, and starving children from that terrible snowy night now stood before him, all grown up. The town cheered, but more than that, they wept, because they had always known James' worth. And now the world knew it too. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking the video, sharing it with someone who needs hope, and subscribing to Kindness Corner. Let's remind the world that no act of kindness is ever wasted, and that love in the end always finds its way home. Special request. Tell us in the comments, what's the kindest thing a stranger ever did for you? Your story might inspire someone else today.